In the last 4 months, I've created 23 listings for my Etsy shop. And as I've been sharing my progress with my Etsy shop, a lot of you have asked me how exactly I design the stuff. So I thought I would make a video with tips on how I get design ideas and just tips in general for how to design the actual product. So before I start, you might be wondering if I have had any graphic design experience from school or from a professional career. And no, I haven't. I am not a graphic designer. I have never worked in graphic design, but in the last 4 years, as I've been self-employed, I've actually used Canva a lot just to create things for my own business, like Instagram posts and different kinds of documents. And I would also say that because I've looked at a lot of social media in the past 4 years, and I look at a lot of graphics, I can say I kind of have an eye for things just because I've looked at so many things and I know what stands out to me, what doesn't stand out to me. So as I'm designing things for my Etsy shop, I honestly literally just use my own eyes to tell if things are good. And I don't use any frameworks or anything. I use some rulers and I just use my own judgment on what looks good and what doesn't. And I would say the products look pretty good to me. So I'm saying this because I know a lot of you who want to start an Etsy shop selling templates, you don't have graphic design or any kind of design experience, and that's okay. You don't need to have that experience. If you spend a lot of time looking at things, or if you just practice by yourself a lot and create a lot of different things, you will get better. So you can still sell templates even if you aren't a graphic designer, but that also means that you might have to spend some extra time, maybe watching more YouTube videos, learning some things about Canva, playing with Canva yourself, and maybe also asking some friends if you're really not sure if the designs are good or not. So my first tip is to look at what your competitors are doing. This should kind of be included in the market research that you're doing anyways, but when you're looking at your competitors' things, like really look at what stands out to you, which one of those products or which competitors' stuff actually looks good to you, and what do you find aesthetic about them. But of course, don't copy your competitors. It's also good to see what kind of things they include in each product, just so you aren't missing like a certain important thing that certain type of product must have. You kind of have to find a balance between looking at your competitors' stuff and not looking so much that you kind of have their designs imprinted in your head and you subconsciously copy their designs. So this is tricky for me as well because I don't want to be influenced by my competitor's design, but it's still wise to check out what other people are doing just so you make sure you include the most important elements in your product. And in general, it's just good to see what stands out to you personally in their products, and can you do something that will make your product stand out as well. My next tip is about how to actually start the product if you're just literally starting from scratch. So maybe you've looked at competitors' stuff and you kind of have an idea of what are the things you need to include in your template, but you don't know where to start because you literally have a blank page in front of you. So what I found that's really helpful for me to get inspiration of what design I want to create is to go look at Canva's slide deck templates, the ones that are already created, and I'll look through a lot of them. I'll make a document saving all of the slide decks that I like and that I think I could use as inspiration. Like maybe I just really like the text, like the font of something, or maybe I like how they position this photo, this photo, this photo, or like certain elements together. So I look at those slide decks and get inspiration. Other than slide decks, you can also look at Instagram posts and marketing material templates, like proposals or stuff like that. It depends on what design you're creating, but I find that for me, I like looking at the slide decks. Also, I think Canva just has a lot of templates for slide decks in general, so there's just a lot more variety in the stuff that I can look at for inspiration. So when I start a template, I will pick and choose from different templates that I like from Canva, and I'm not gonna copy the whole thing, but I'll take elements that I like. Maybe I like this block plus this photo plus this other block, and maybe I like a color scheme from another template, and then maybe I like the font pairing from another template, or maybe I like this font from here and this font from there, and maybe I'll put it together into my own thing. So I kind of have like a page of things to look at, and then I pick and choose what I like from the different templates, and then I just put it into my own, and it basically becomes like a new thing. By the way, if you're liking this video so far, give it a thumbs up. My next tip is to search in Google for blog posts on how to create a XYZ, the thing you are creating, because a lot of the times you can look at what's out there on Etsy, you can look at your competitors, but there's also a lot of resources on Google and also YouTube videos on how to create that specific thing. And if you you watch a couple of videos, read a couple of blog posts, some blog posts might also have like a free template that you can download and take a look at. So that's another place where you can take a look at what other people are doing. It also helps you to make sure you're not missing any important elements. For example, like a contact page or a blurb about something specific for that thing you're selling. My next tip is if you are really stuck on the design, what might help is if you just do it on paper, like just go old fashioned, do it on paper, and literally you might have an idea in your head what it can look like, and it takes a long time to actually put things together in Canva, but if you just do it with pen and paper, it might be faster for you to sketch out the template with the different elements that you need to include. My next tip is to take your old templates and just move things around. Maybe you can change the font a bit, maybe change the colors a bit, drag things around and see if you can come up with like a new design. I think it's always easier to start from something and then change things up rather than starting from scratch and you add each single element. It's always easier to move things around. My next tip is if you know people who will actually use your Etsy products, say maybe your friends who own a certain business and they might need that product, you can ask them for their feedback, send it to them. This is also great market research to find out what exactly they want in a product like this. And then when you finish the draft of your template, you can also send it to them and see, do they like the design aspects? Do they think it's easy to use, etc. My next tip is for if you feel stuck, one thing you can also do is to just put it away and look at it the next day and just start with fresh eyes, because I think a lot of the times when we're trying to design something and we are looking at it and thinking about it for hours, everything just gets messy in your head. You don't have any fresh ideas, or maybe you just feel like bleh when you're designing. So it might actually be good to just stop doing it, rest, and then come back the next day or maybe like in 2 more days and continue to work on it, because you'll have fresh eyes. For me, I find that I can spend like maybe 2 or 3 hours every day designing something, but then after 2 or 3 hours, I kind of feel like I just can't do it anymore. So I usually just schedule like 2 or 3 hours to do Etsy design and then I'll continue it the next day. So I have 2 bonus tips on how to make the actual template better. And my first tip is to use the rulers that are in Canva. So you line up things like maybe a photo and a text block and this other color block. I like lining things up. Like I'm really meticulous with lining things up so they're kind of perfect. It really bugs me when like something's like off by a little bit. And my next tip is to use ChatGPT, which I'm sure most of you know. If you don't, just Google it. There's like so many YouTube videos and resources on how to use ChatGPT. But if you're writing like a sample text for your template, now I just use ChatGPT. Okay, this is like not my niche, but let's say you are making real estate templates and you're trying to write a sample bio for a realtor. Then literally I would just go into ChatGPT and say, write me a 5-sentence biography of a real estate agent living in Vancouver selling residential homes. It does all the work for me, and then maybe I'll make a few changes and then put it into my template. I mentioned in one of my other videos that I really don't like putting lorem ipsum text, which is like that Latin random text you see sometimes in templates. As an Etsy buyer, I would hate to see that in templates because I just feel like I can't use it as a sample. The reason why I'm buying a template is so I have like a sample thing that I can use and put in my own thing. So let's say I'm a realtor buying a template and then there's a part about a bio. If I see a bio that is already crafted, maybe I can just like change the name, change the city, change some details, and I can use that format to create my own bio. So it's a lot better for your customers if you actually have like sample text and if you don't use lorem ipsum text. Let me know in the comments if you have any other tips. I would love to know. Maybe I could use some of your tips when I design my own stuff as well. I know in this video I talked mainly about the actual Etsy product, but another thing that is super duper important is making Etsy listing photos, because the listing photos are what will get your customer to actually buy your product. So even if your product is really good but your listing photos suck, like no one's gonna buy it. So you gotta make sure your listing photos are amazing. And I made this really in-depth tutorial on how I make my listing photos. I share screen and everything. So make sure you check out this video next.